earlier we were talking about, you know, growing up, right? If you were to be in this topic, you know, had you not had the father you had, right?
Yeah.
What what was that sort of childhood like in that? Were you always, you know, was that all the conversation at home? Were you sort of brought in as a mentor, you know, as a young child? Like, I'm curious how that worked for you, or there was no influence at all.
Well, from the age of 3, my father would ask me detailed questions for advice on what he should do.
Really? Oh
No,
my!
no,
Oh,
no.
that's hilarious. Wow,
um,
you sold that. That was
yeah, I
good.
did. I
That was
my
good.
tail could be my lip quivering, and I tried to hold it. Yeah, um, well, I don't know life without UFOs, but in this context, people think of my father as a UFO guy. He was an astronomer and an astrophysicist
Yeah.
who had a late in life side hustle of UFOs. So it wasn't like he viewed everything through a UFO prism, or all of our conversations devolved or evolved to UFOs. A lot of them were about eclipses and just science overall, and a inquisitive mindset to the world. And then we'd have Travis Walton over for dinner, or Father Gill, or somebody else, and there'd be a flap or a big case, and it would get white hot and talk about UFOs, and it was a very open topic. By the time that I was reasonably sentient, Project Blue Book was over, and my father could talk freely. So it was just super cool. It was a very fun environment. I have really cool siblings, and both my parents were awesome. And UFOs was just a really fun thing to talk about with somebody who had a front row seat to the phenomena.
Yeah, front row seat. That is putting it lightly. Absolutely. You know, what were your father's conclusions at the end? Like, what was his opinion? Like, was he just full on 100%, we have been visited on this planet, or did he even think like that in those sort of terms? Or
I think that terminology is problematic.
yeah, I
I
agree.
think he would say there's a phenomena, there's a real phenomena here. He didn't particularly cotton to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, as it really going to rankle an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And so he and Jacques Vallée and others thought about other solutions, other provenances like interdimensional or time travel. And I lean towards the interdimensional. To me, it answers the two biggest questions. How do they know we're here? And why do they care? Because they're kind of here, or they're adjacent, and maybe they're related to us in some way. And that also that could explain how they would blink in and out like a Cheshire cat.
Sure.
So visiting the planet, maybe they're here on the planet, or could be subterranean. Maybe there are Nazis underneath Antarctica for all I know. It sounds kind of fun. But so, I think he would say that, and he did say, there is a real phenomena here, and we just don't know what it is.
Yeah, right on. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's how I feel now, to be honest. I was watching, before we jumped on, I have found this crazy video on YouTube that had like 500 views. Maybe there's other videos of it, but your father was on a show called To Tell the Truth.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
game show, and
Right.
it was great. And it got me thinking. Yeah, there's some laughs in the show, but to be honest, the topic was kind of approached like, not, I wouldn't maybe not say seriously, but it wasn't like it was laughed at. And it makes me wonder about the path that the stigma of UFOs has taken. It almost makes me think at the beginning it was kind of like, okay, maybe this is something kind of reasonable, and then it took a dip down where the stigma really starts to hit, and then you might argue it's kind of, the stigma's going away a little bit. People are okay to talk about it now. I mean, I have all kinds of conversations with people who aren't into this at all, serious conversations about it. So I don't know. What do you think of that? What do you feel about that?
Well, first I got to say, the that episode was sponsored by Prel, and you could use some Prel in your hair because it's a little bit unruly right now, Patrick. I just gotta say. So yeah, it's an interesting idea about, that was right after the era of like ray guns and little green men and all that, right? But it's a fact that the government has engaged in paid disinformation campaigns to make the phenomena seem ludicrous and ridiculous. And, I think I don't begrudge them that. But I think they kind of ran out of steam with that. And now, like you said, I remember in the 70s, people were very uncomfortable, especially before the movie Close Encounters, which kind of gave people permission to talk about it. Now, it's almost as if, you don't have a seat at the table if you don't have some kind of alien or UFO tale to share. People are very open. And also, I think it's part and parcel of culture now that people are much less ashamed of things that we would have thought before are tawdry or notorious. It's some kind of marker of distinction that you have something interesting to talk about, even if it is kind of would have been scandalous before.